In this episode of The Key to Understanding is Nonverbal Behavior, you're going to be learning about the science behind body language. This includes where our body language comes from, how our nonverbal behavior can affect the way we feel, and how our environment changes our body language. During the 2004 Olympic and Paralympic Games, scientists looked into the behavior, pride, and shame of the judo match competitors and compared the behavior between the Olympic and Paralympic athletes. This footage is not of the judo match, however, the same idea applies. They discovered that both the participants in the Paralympic and Olympic Games had the same reaction when they won or lost and often displayed the same nonverbal tell, even though some of the competitors were blind and could not have learned to perform the nonverbal action from other people. For example, they raised their arms in the air, which is a clear nonverbal cue of pride. Thus, part of our nonverbal behavior originates from our ancestors and our brains. The brain of a human can be divided into three parts: the limbic brain, reptilian brain, and the neocortex brain. The brain that controls our expressions and nonverbal behavior is the limbic brain, while the neocortex brain is used to read and understand the thoughts of the people around us. It controls our thinking. The reptilian brain doesn't have any relevancy in our body language. The limbic brain is considered to be the most honest part of our brains, as it reacts to our environment and situation instantaneously, thus displaying the most honest feelings and thoughts about the situation. The limbic brain also doesn't use words or require thought. It is a natural action. These natural actions are coded into the human species, making it very difficult to hide. The limbic brain sends a message through the body in order to cause the change in our nonverbal behavior. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the neocortex brain is seen as the lying brain because it can use words to deceive or manipulate the truth. A clear example of when the neocortex brain and limbic brain are working against one another is the classic situation of an individual being questioned. This individual may undergo stress or pressure. Their limbic brain will cause them to sweat or restrain their arm movement, while on the other hand, their neocortex brain can lie through the individual's speech. The main focus is on our limbic brains. When under pressure, it causes us to go through three responses: the freeze, flight, and fight response. In the past, our ancestors had to face many strong and dangerous predators which we couldn't defeat in a fight. This resulted in the freeze response being developed. In these situations, our ancestors would freeze up in order to make themselves somewhat invisible and attract less attention to themselves from the predator that they're facing. This also gave them an opportunity to analyze the situation and their thoughts. Even when faced with danger today, our body still goes through the freeze response. We don't face dangerous predators anymore, but the freeze response is often seen when we feel frightened or scared, or we're feeling threatened, or if we're lying. In our modern world, the freeze response is seen when people try to decrease the exposure to themselves to their surroundings, so they might be sitting with their head down or walking with restricted movement. The second limbic response is the flight response. When the freeze action doesn't work, our bodies will try to distance ourselves away from the threat. Again, the flight response has been adapted to change and suit modern day situations. So rather than running away from a predator or danger, we will cover our faces or cross our arms or turn our bodies away, or often place a bag or some object in front of us to protect us from whatever danger threat we're facing. Neither the freeze or flight response works. Our body will go through the last option, which is the fight response. Now, this response involves turning our rage or fear or anger into a form of protection. Again, nowadays it isn't appropriate to start a physical fight with someone, so we often see it through when people argue with their words, or also when you just violating another person's personal space. Another question that is often asked is, what effect does your body language have on your feelings and emotions? To answer this question, we have to first reach an understanding about the hormones that work within the body. There are two hormones in particular that have a major effect on our emotions and our body language. The first is testosterone, which is the dominance hormone, and the second is cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Amy Cuddy, a professor at the Harvard Business School, conducted an experiment where she had the participants stand in high and low power poses for 2 minutes to see if their body language had any effect on how they felt and their testosterone and cortisol levels. It was found that after doing a high power pose, most people had a 20% increase in the testosterone levels, and low power posing people had a 10% decrease in testosterone. For their cortisol levels, power posers had a 25% decrease, while low power posers experienced a 15% increase. Power posing has a major impact on how we feel and consequently how we behave. Other than the useful scientific insight that power posing gives us, it can also be used in real life situations. For example, when you're feeling nervous before a job interview or any situation, you can do a high power pose in order to make yourself feel more confident and ready to face the situation. In another experiment, students were either placed in a cubicle that had a large desk space or a small desk space, and during this they were given challenges and opportunities to cheat. Students who were working on the larger desk space had to move around more in order to grab the materials that they needed. This resulted in a more powerful and dominating body language. However, for students who are working on the smaller desk space, they could easily grab the materials without having to stretch across the table to grab things. This created submissive body language. It was found that individuals who were seated on the larger desk were more likely to cheat than the students who were seated on the smaller desk. The environment for the individuals seated on the large desk caused their bodies to expand and take up more space. This meant that they would feel more powerful and led them to dishonest behavior. In this episode of The Key to Understanding is Nonverbal Behavior, we've learned about the roots of our body language and where it comes from, and also the way in our limbic brain causes us to have three responses, which is the freeze, flight, and fight response. We've also learned that by consciously changing our body language, we can change the way we feel ourselves and make ourselves feel more confident and ready. Thank you for watching this episode. In this episode, we're going to be learning about the nonverbal tells of the hands.